Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar. Whether you're new to TAPS, been here a while, there's always something new going on when we change over from one year to the other. We appreciate you joining us today. Hopefully we can answer a few questions. We might even pry a few questions out of you as far as where we're going and where we're headed. We're in that new part of the year where the ball rolls downhill really quickly. So my name is Brian Bunselmeyer, 18 years here at TAPS. Before that, 10 years at Argyle Liberty Christian. So I've been in TAPS for a while. I've seen it from both sides of the equation. Been a teacher, been a coach, been a principal, and now executive director. So we're glad to have you here. I'm going to ask Robert Huckabee here to my left to introduce himself. Then Steve Prudhomme, Steve Vahulan, tell you a little bit about where we're from and what we're looking to do today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Huckabee. I have the role here as Director of Compliance. So I'm the one that answers a lot of questions regarding rules and regulations. We'll talk about some of those forms and things as we go through the webinar. Many years in TAPS as a coach and AD and assistant head of school. Steve and I had the pleasure to serve on the AEC and the TAPS Executive Board for several years together before Brian talked us into coming on here full time 8 and 7 years ago. So we got many years in TAPS, and we're here as a resource for you if you need anything.
Yeah, my name is Steve Prudhomme. I guess 27 years in TAPS as an AD and coach in baseball, basketball. Spent some time in governance, also a lot of time within the district governance on those DDCs. Again, my 8th year in TAPS, and I talked Robert into coming, so I'm kind of on the hook for him. So hopefully don't give him a hard time. But anyway, he's been an incredible addition to the staff a few years ago, and we've had some incredible additions since then. So speaking of that, I'll hand it over to Steve Vahulan.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being here today. I'm Steve Vahulan. I'm the newest guy on the staff, but I'm also the oldest guy too. I started out in TAPS in 1983. So I was sitting in your shoes for about 40 years, and then Brian talked me into coming on board here at TAPS, and it's been a blast. My role here is I'm TAPS Athletic Director, which basically means I serve as a resource for all of you. So if you have questions about athletics, or you shoot at me an email, or just give me a call, I'll be happy to help you out. All right, so we're going to start out what's happening in TAPS. We have had a really busy summer, and maybe you were involved in some of these things. If you weren't, think about this for next year. First of all, early June, we had a sand volleyball tournament. We did that at Game On Sports in Fort Worth. We had 123 teams. And I tell you what, it was a blast. 123 teams out there in the heat. But it was a lot of fun. Think about it for next year. If you were there this year, I'm sure you'll be planning on being there next year. About a week later, we had a 6-on-6 and a 7-on-7 tournament at the Hot Soccer Fields in Waco. We had 39 teams. We would love to expand that for both our 6-on-6 teams and our 7-on-7 teams. And then coming up this month, actually this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we have a spike down tournament. It's kind of like your first competitive tournament for your volleyball teams. Once again, it is at Game On Sports Complex in Fort Worth. We have about 60 teams. We probably still have space for a few more if you'd hurry up and reach out to our office if you want to join. But that's coming up this week. Then later on, August 26 to 27, we do have a fall soccer tournament at Round Rock, at the Round Rock Multiplex Purpose Complex. We have 15 teams signed up. 16 teams would be ideal. So if there are any of you out there who have fall soccer and are not signed up for that, reach out to our office. Reach out to Kelly, Kelli, at taps.biz if you want to join that. Steve?
Well, we have a big date coming up. I know you're getting all your coaches and students into the system, but on September 3rd is the deadline for getting your contracts, your participation forms in, and also your fees and dues. It's a very important date. You should have already received these forms in the mail, and if you haven't been mailed to you yet, let us know so we can send it out to you. Also, when you're going through that and doing your contract and participation, please check with your fine arts folks, if their activities, if they're going to be involved in that as well. That's very important. And check the calendar. The calendar is on the website, and we'll talk about that a couple of times, but there's a link right there to the left of TAPS, and check the calendar for the date. So as you're signing up for things, make sure that it works out with your school calendar and your activity calendar. as well as the next question after we get the contracts, we're able to do brackets. And so people always ask, when are the brackets coming out? When are the brackets coming out? First of all, we need to know who's playing. So we get those contracts back in and we know for sure who's going to be doing what. We're able to go back, give these to the board. We're going to have a meeting September 16th, and they'll be approving the brackets. And so soon after that, we should start to see brackets being shared and posted out for the end of the year for the team sports. So look for that as we go forward. And Robert, I'll let you talk about a few more important dates.
All right, Steve, thank you. One of the important dates coming up that's fairly urgent, if you're in a sport right now, certainly volleyball, football, fall soccer, cross country, is our transfer deadlines. In TAPS, we have transfer deadlines throughout the year, one for each season, basically, fall, winter, and spring, and those are always posted on that TAPS calendar. The one coming up immediately is on September 10th. That is our fall transfer deadline. That's for all fall sports, team sports and/or individual. If you have students that are transferring to your school during high school, then they are a transfer student. We've sent out a lot of emails the last few weeks. We'll continue to do that as reminders about the things you need to do and have in place for those transfer students. But just know, for any students coming into your school at the beginning of the year that are transfer students, if they want to participate in fall sports, they need to be enrolled in your school. They need to be withdrawn from the previous school, and they need to be in attendance in class at your school on or before that date. So on or before September 10th, that's a very big date. That's also a big date if you have senior transfers. The senior transfer deadline applies to the entire year, the remainder of the year. So if you have seniors coming into your school as a transfer, they need to be there by September 10th, or they've missed that transfer deadline. And that would affect all activities for the year. Reach out to us if you have parents inquiring or enrolling and you get real close to that deadline. We'll help you walk through that and give you all the details you need to know. That doesn't mean you have to have all the transfer paperwork in and approved. They need to be enrolled, withdrawn, and attending your school by that date. That'll apply again in the winter for winter transfers, and it'll apply again in the spring for spring transfers. We'll also do an enrollment snapshot on September 10th. That's where we take your enrollment. We do it 3 times throughout the year. You'll be getting emails and information on that. Just make sure you complete that information for us when that comes out. That'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Robert, before we jump off of here, we've talked about getting the transfer process complete. So that means they've got their forms in, we've reviewed it. The district's had a chance to look at it. So before they've been approved, can students practice? Can they play in a scrimmage? Can they play in a game? Just give a brief little overview. Obviously, they're there, they're attending the school, they're enrolled, they would obviously be able to practice. But what about scrimmages and contests?
For eligibility purposes, if you have a student that needs what we call additional approval, that would be transfer students, international students, or students not living with parents, they cannot participate in scrimmages or games, varsity or JV, until their transfer has been approved by our office. It is a busy time in the TAPS office. We're getting those like crazy on a daily basis, and Delaney and Steve are processing those quickly. But we do get a lot of those, and we need you to get that paperwork to us ASAP.
So on transfers, if you've got questions, rather than ask for forgiveness later, reach out, give us a call, 254-947-9268, or drop us an email, info @taps.biz, because the penalty for playing ineligible players is pretty severe. So we just want to help you walk through the process, but transfers, international students. So an international student to TAPS is anyone who's not a citizen of the United States. So that's irregardless of whether they are on a green card or some of our students come across the border. We don't call Arkansas international, but if they're coming from Mexico on a daily basis, coming across one of the bridges, they'd be an international student. So if you've got questions, we'll have a question answer here in just a little bit, but also again, 254-947-9268 or info @taps.biz. Go ahead, Will. It gets busy. September's a little bit slower of a month for us, but October goes really quick. So match play golf, we're doing one of the few, if not the only, match play high school golf tournament in the United States. We started it. We're proud of it. Team tennis is a showcase. It's in October. Your practices begin. We've got the Drumline Fall Band. We've got field hockey, fall soccer, and cross country. What's not up there are your certification deadlines. So make sure for your fall soccer and for your volleyball, know when that certification deadline is and make sure you've had your preseason meeting so that you know what happens if we have a tie. Are we going to have a one-game playoff? All that has to occur prior to that deadline. Volleyball is usually not that hard. You can drive and play indoors, but fall soccer, if it's raining, if it's too hot, if it's a tornado, whatever it may be, you need to plan ahead and give yourself a couple extra playing dates. So October gets busy. It'll be done before we know it, though. I've been doing this for 18 years, and every season seems to just fly by in my memory. So, Steve, the newest thing for TAPS and for everybody in TAPS is TMS, the TAPS management system. Give us a brief description of where we are and what your thoughts are.
Sure. You know, if you've been in a TAPS school for the past 5 years, you know that we have used Rank 1, and it has served us well. However, we are making the transition this year to our own TAPS management system, we refer to as TMS. All of your work will be done as far as compliance of your program, compliance of your coaches, the eligibility of your athletes, the reporting of games and scores. All of those things will be done in TMS. If you, some of our schools have opted to stay with Rank 1 as far as athletic training reports and other things. If you are in that boat and you're struggling with the transition, you know, just give us a call. But all of your work as far as compliance will be done in the TMS program. We do have a guide. Will, if we can go to our website, we have quick start guides. If you go in the upper right-hand corner where it says TMS, you click there and we have a complete page. And if you scroll down, we've got all the latest quick start guides, which are going to be real important for getting your coaches into your school, making sure they're compliant, uploading your students. That's probably going to be the biggest thing we need right now. Most of our schools have done a good job with this, but we still have a few schools that still need to upload their students into the TMS system. Scheduling your games, reporting your scores, all of those kind of things will be done in TMS. And this is going to be your go-to spot for a quick start guide that shows you how to do these things. The biggest thing, make sure your coaches are in TMS, make sure your students are uploaded, and make sure that your games are in the schedules there. We talk about eligibility rosters. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. As far as eligibility rosters are concerned, once your kids are in TMS, you can now create eligibility rosters. And that's going to be really important to make sure that your program is in compliance, that you're playing kids that are eligible. We do, as we showed you at that, when we went to the website, we have a complete guide for creating those eligibility rosters. Then you're going to have some kids that are going to be in special circumstances as far as transfer students, international students, students living with parents. There are forms on the TAPS website. I think Robert will touch on that later on, but make sure that you're not playing kids that have not been approved if they are a transfer, if they're an international student, or if they're a student not living with their parents. Robert, can you talk about coaches and personnel?
Sure. One of the most important things, and Steve touched on it with regard to being in the database, are those men and women that you have coaching and acting as coaches and personnel for your programs and for your students. And an important thing in TAPS, we understand that at the school level, many of your coaches are not full-time employees at the school. As a matter of fact, our statistics are probably about 70% or more of the TAPS coaches are part-time, volunteer, stipend, paid, unpaid, a mom, a dad, whatever it might be in a particular situation. But if someone steps into that role at your school, they are a coach for TAPS purposes. And on a professional level, we want them to have gone through certain certifications, through certain things as any professional organization would do to make sure that they're equipped to handle that responsibility. you want to know who a coach is, you can go to section 1 of our bylaws. It's explained there, much as I described. But if they're acting for you in that capacity in coach and/or in practice and/or in games, then they are a coach for TAPS purposes, and they need to be compliant. What does that mean? Well, they need to be in TMS as TAPS, as Steve Hahulin mentioned, and they need to be compliant. A coach compliance in TAPS means that they've completed their teams courses. If you went to our TAPSCon, our convention this past summer, and sat through that particular session, then you got credit for that. If not, then you have to complete those teams courses and sign your acknowledgement of rules. That's just making sure you're exposed to the basics of the TAPS rules and the responsibilities for our coaches. There's a health and safety requirement, first aid, sudden cardiac arrest, concussion training, all of those kind of things that are outlined as well. And then there's NFHS training. If you have coaches at your school that have less than 5 years of experience coaching in an interscholastic situation like a school, not a club or select, but a school-based program, then they need to complete a fundamentals of coaching course and also an NFHS sports-specific course. All that information is outlined in the bylaws, and we can certainly help you walk through that if you have any questions. But the most important thing we want you to know is please make sure all those coaches are in TMS. That's how we're going to communicate with you. Sports, that's how we're going to communicate with all of our coaches and ADs throughout the season, give you emails and updates about things you need to know. It's a lot of information. We're going to bounce through this pretty quickly, but we're going to take a couple of places and just pause for some questions. This will be one of those places. We've covered just some highlights of getting the year started at this point. So before we move on to anything else, we'll open it up for questions. If you have specific questions, let me say this about questions. If you have a general question, that's great. If you have a specific question, for instance, maybe you're trying to do something in TMS and you're struggling with a particular thing, might be better to reach out to us individually because everybody's situation is different. But if you have a general question about things we've covered so far or where to find something in TAPS or on the website, we'll open it up for questions if we have any at this time.
Robert, I've got one question in the chat.
Okay.
About TMS, are we uploading all students or just the students playing sports?
You need to make sure you upload all high school students. You never know when. Two things. Number one, if you just upload the ones that you think are participating, and then all of a sudden some kiddo comes out late and you forget to add them in, you may run into an eligibility issue. But number two, we track your enrollment, and we do it two ways. Number one, your head administrator is going to fill out a form, and he's going to affirm, yeah, I have 103 kids in my high school, but we'll also be comparing that to what we have in TMS. So make sure you upload all your high school students, whether they participate in an activity or not.
Steve, they can also upload junior high if they desire. It's just not required, correct?
They may. In fact, you can add other teams. You can schedule your JV games. You can schedule junior high games. You can go all the way down to elementary. We won't be looking at that. We don't govern middle school or elementary athletics, but it can be a very valuable tool for you. And so you can upload other kids to keep track of, and you'll be able to message them and message other teams as well. We will be focused on high school, however.
Any other questions?
I've got a specific TMS question about uploading physicals, but that might be something to answer individually.
I think let's go ahead and talk about uploading physicals, because TAPS, over the years, we've tried to assist our schools by doing that, but it put great risk by putting medical information out there. So in the TAPS TMS system, you'll not actually upload the physical or the medical history form. That'll be kept on file at your school, but there will, to my knowledge, Steve, be a checkbox where you'll say you have them. So you're not actually physically uploading those in TMS.
There is, and it's so simple. I'm going to be able to just tell you about it. Number one, there is a quick start guide of how to do this, but real quickly, if the AD or the TMS admin goes into the school profile and you click on student reports, scroll down and all of your students will come up to the far right. There's a blue button. You'll click on that and you'll be able to see where you can click that you have physical on file and medical history on file. You save that, and that's all we need you to do to affirm that you have a current medical history and physical on file. Once again, there is a quick start guide if that was too fast for you. Quick start guide on our TMS page of how to do that.
I've got a question on how to upload acknowledgement of rules, or how do we enter the athletes' acknowledgement of rules for them and their parents?
We are actually sending out an email today. We are celebrating that Apple has finally approved our student and parent app. An email will be coming out to you guys. There will also be a quick start guide that you can send to your parents, and they will be able to go into the app and do that. So look for that email coming out this afternoon.
And one more, so that I imagine then they'll be able to see that their coaches are compliant in the TMS system. That was our last question.
Correct.
One more that just came in. Do we have options for athletic trainers to document in TMS, or is that not an option?
Again, the more requirements that you have for that kind of data puts more emphasis and liability back towards the database. So we are not going to have in TMS for trainers a functioning part of that. Now, Rank 1, good partner for 5 years, you can still do it through that system, but we're not going to have the athletic trainer have that database or functionality in regards to the students and the aggregated data of injuries or compliance that would go with that. Any more questions, John? Are we good to rock on?
There's one more here that I'm going to try to answer individually that has to do with a coach not showing up as compliant, even though they've watched their videos.
Okay.
Have them shoot me an email, because we have had a few glitches like that. Steve H. at taps.biz, and I can help you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move forward. We'll come back to more questions. Again, we're not trying to stymie the discussion, but if you've got a question, feel free to chat, ask it, whatever we can do, and then follow up. One of the things that's going to be really important, our board and across the state, it's 888 miles from Orange, Texas to El Paso, and about that far from Brownsville up to Amarillo. We've got 240 schools spaced throughout. So schedules and scores become very, very, very important. So our board has indicated that they want scores posted within 48 hours of completion of the contest. So in football, that generally means that by Monday morning, you've got one game a week, you've able to get your score in. I think the bigger part of that is volleyball. If you're coming to Spike Down, you're guaranteed 8 games, possibly 9. So you don't want to get behind in these tournament games for volleyball. So make sure you've got your schedules in for your varsity. You can put the others in as well. Make sure you get your scores in as soon as possible. And if you've got problems, reach out to us at info@taps.biz or call us on the phone. Update your schedule with cancellation and game changes. And then it's never too early to put your winter sports in, your spring sports. You may not have a baseball, softball schedule yet, but it is important once you start making your volleyball and whatever, get those on in ahead of time. So schedules and scores, very important. Again, www.taps.biz, right-hand side has the TMS little button. Click on TMS. There is a quick start guide just now added today, I believe, for adding scores, and schedules are there as well. And we'll take some questions later, but if you need help, please reach out. Robert, jump to forms for us, and away we'll go.
All right, Will, if you would jump over to the website for us. And you go to taps.biz on the main page, and then over just to the right, that resources tab, there's a drop down there. The third one down is called TAPS Forms. That's our location of forms you might need for things that occur throughout the year. You can see there's a medical history physical there, transfer and PAPX are there, international student not living with those parents. Those things that we talked about previously are there. That's where you find those. If you scroll on down, Will, there is an appeal form. If you had an appeal over some rule or issue, that form is there. Alignment, if you need to add or drop in an activity. And there are others that we'll be adding as those are needed throughout the year. One that we don't like to use often, but it is necessary, is removal from a contest. And that's going to be coming up soon with football getting started. We usually don't have many in volleyball, if any. That's a great thing, but we do have them in football and our other activities. If you have a coach, a player, or a fan ejected and or removed from a contest, as a TAP school, you are obligated to fill out one of these forms. Will, if you would, just click on that removal from a contest form, and it will take you to an online submission form. All you have to do is fill out that information. It's not very long. It just asks for basic information. You hit submit, and that comes to us directly in our office. If you are a TAP school playing another TAP school and someone is ejected or removed from the other team, we need you to fill out one as well. If we have an ejection or removal from contest, we would like to receive a report from both schools involved and from the officials. We get one from the officials, we coordinate that with them, but we would like to get one for everyone. And obviously there are rules for fines, suspensions, and those kind of things depending on the nature of the removal. So keep that in mind as that happens throughout the year. We'll be sending out email reminders of that. But if you need those forms, that's where those can be found there on the website.
Robert, do me a favor just real quick before Will jumps back. We don't call it an ejection report anymore. We call it removal from a contest. So an ejection meant somebody threw that yellow flag in football a couple of times. They told you you're out of here, you're ejected. In basketball, it's a double T. Volleyball is the weird one. It's a yellow, then a red, and then a yellow red. You get 3 chances in volleyball a lot of times. But what's that difference, kind of technically, between why do we call it removal from a contest? What other situation other than getting the cards, getting the flags would precipitate that?
So there are instances clearly, as Brian mentioned, where it is clear to everybody in the gym or in the stadium that someone, a coach or player or fan, has been asked to leave the playing field or the stadium. There have been situations where an official has come to a coach and said, "Coach, he can't play anymore." That is a removal from contest. If an official communicates anything to a coach that a player is not allowed to continue participating, it kind of became a way that officials would kind of remove somebody, but not really. And so we changed that terminology to removal from a contest. So if a coach or AD, a game administrator, is advised that someone needs to leave the facility or someone cannot re-enter the game by the officials, you need to treat that as a removal from contest and get those forms to us.
So we don't want to focus on bad acts, but I do want to indicate the UIL and the coaches associations have developed the Texas Way. It's an education program for athletes and coaches. It's a good program. I think it's a real good play to go that way. But what we're really looking for here is competition with honor. So that's been our slogan now for 15 years. And we stand behind it. So educate your students, educate your coaches, educate your fans of what your expectation is. We're there to help on the backside with fines and fees and sitting games if we have to. But right now, we just want to make sure we're going down the right road. So thank you, Robert. Will, let's bounce on back. There's a concern every year about what are my dues and fees. So I just want to give you, we talked about it at New AD training in Waco, but every day somebody asks me, so membership dues are based on the size of your school. They're going to be $300 to $600. It's a very minimal fee. And event fee, as you're filling out those participation forms for this year, you're going to pay $315 for each activity: boys cross country, girls cross country, swim, football, etc. There's a couple on the other side, like fine arts, like cheer and dance, that cost a little bit more. But your entry fees are very important as well. That's what you're going to pay for cross country, swim, mainly the individual sports. So we'll jump back over there for me real quick to the website, www.taps.biz. Click on athletics for me and jump on that little thing up there that says athletic fees. Second one down on the left for right now. So if you scroll down, it's going to tell you the cross country is $35 a student, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're going to compete in cross country, swim, track, tennis, or golf, match play, golf, team tennis, spike down. Make you sure from an entry fee side that you're familiar with what that's going to cost. It's not just the $315. So anyway, membership dues, that's what gets you in. Event fees, that's what you do for each event, and that pays for our office and our staff and most of our travel. And then the entry fees help pay for those individual events. We live off gate fees for the team sports, but the other side is paid by your entry fee. Steve, let's talk a little bit about game management, what our expectations are in light of competition with Honor and the Texas Way.
Sure. With volleyball games already begun and fall soccer and football on the horizon, I think as an athletic director, your number one goal for those games is to provide a positive and a safe environment for everybody involved, not just your athletes, but your coaches, for the officials, for the fans. It's very important that at all your home games, you have assigned a game administrator, somebody who is going to watch over the crowd, who's going to coordinate things with the officials, to be there in case you have some kind of emergency. It might be a medical emergency. It might be a sportsmanship issue. It might be removal from contest. About a week or two ago, we sent out an email that has a video that goes over all the roles and responsibilities of a game administrator, along with a checklist. I would highly recommend that you view that, and I would have the people that you assign as your game administrators to watch that as well, so that they know what they're doing. But they need to be present, they need to be active, they need to be involved, just watching over, and they are responsible for the whole environment of your game. Once playoffs start, both home and away teams must have a game administrator. Steve, we're going to talk about officials.
Yes, and the officials are not the game administrators, and that's why it's good to go right back to back. Will, can you go to the website? And on the website, we've changed where officials are located. Go to athletics, and then you have a box that says officials right there in the middle. TAPS approves all chapters. You cannot have a chapter that has not been approved by TAPS. And we have them in three categories. One is TASO, Texas Association of Sports Officials, TASO.org. You can go online and see who those chapters are. They are automatically approved by TAPS if they're part of that organization in good standing. And so again, and if something happens, we're able to work with their hierarchy and with our hierarchy to kind of give you that oversight that you need. Now for basketball only, we have THSBOA, Texas High School Basketball Officials Association. They also have a website. And you go there, if you see a chapter listed on that website, they are automatically approved by TAPS. The third category are TAPS approved chapters. And those have to go through a process with us through this office. And actually, I've been in charge of this for the last few years. And they have to do an application process and get approved. Part of the application process goes through all your agreement to do things, list of officials, background checks, insurance, all sorts of things. And they have to be approved, and then they are put on the officials landing page. As you can see, if you look to the right, we have TAPS approved officials, and then we have that list. If they're not on that page, they are not currently approved by TAPS. I've been hearing some folks call the office and their chapter saying this, and they're kind of double talking this and doing all that. So what we want to do is single talk. They have to be on that list or they are not approved by TAPS. If they have a question, a chapter does, why they're not approved, direct those questions to us at the TAPS office and Steve at taps.biz, and we'll work with them. But we just went through a reapplication process and an application process for that. So that is if you have a TAPS approved official. If you're THSBOA, TASO, that's easy. You'll see them listed and you can go right ahead. We also have a recommended pay scale, and that's the same for all. All three categories are the same. That is the recommendation of TAPS. So make sure you look that up. We have the link right there, and you can follow that. There may be some times that you might have to work out a deal with them because they're going to a single game and you're 60 miles away from everybody. We understand that, but the recommended pay scale is basically what we're going off of to begin with. How to handle situations with chapters. That's a big question. Communicate, plan in advance. So we're really urging everyone, as soon as you know your schedule, get with the chapter. We urge you to have contracts because, again, for us to, as an office to come out and help you, we can enforce contracts, and it also helps them on the other side. So make sure you have an agreement. Make sure you have your schedule of games into them. Also, if there's any changes. And we have a little bit of flexibility that the UIL does not have. So there's times maybe you do a Monday, Thursday for some district games. We did that in softball back when I was an athletic director, and we got the best umpires there were. But that was our deal with them. So there needs to be a little flexibility. And when you get to the playoffs, all three categories, if it's basketball, the two categories, if it's not basketball, are eligible to be assigned. So when you're working with each other, making those arrangements, again, go back to the officials page, make sure you double check. And if there's an issue with a chapter, if somebody gets ejected, do not call the chapter and say, hey, we kind of want to work that. Well, here's a video, and there's no takebacks, okay? So if something happens, make sure you're communicating to the head office. It's good to communicate with your chapter, but the chapter also understands that the head office has to be involved in anything that has to do with an incident. So again, work hard, communicate. The relationship with the officials is key. We don't have the games without them, and some of them are pretty nice people, most of them. But they're really good people once you get to know them. And again, they're dedicated to the same thing you're dedicated to, which is high school athletics. And I'll pass it on to Brian.
So we've met with the TASO chapters here over the last couple of weeks. Got to take a couple of quick trips out to Abilene, see our West Texas friends out there. We've met with baseball, softball, and their off season, and we're meeting with soccer. So we're doing our best to do the handshaking. And hey, we're all friends at the table here. Steve, I do think we need to talk just really briefly. What's the difference between being a TASO member and being assigned by the TASO chapter? Because a lot of times out there, folks that are looking to get a game in, they'll say, oh, he's a member of TASO. But there's a difference between being assigned by that chapter and being a member. So
yeah, that's why I say go to the website, and they need to be listed on the website, because we have some guys moonlighting and saying, hey, I'm part of TASO. These are TASO guys. I'm assigning kind of on my own. That means we don't know about background checks. We don't have insurance. And if something happens, there's nothing that we can fall back on if we have an ejection or an incident report or something like that. So again, be part of one of these three categories, and we have that relationship. We have those agreements, and then we can come in and handle things. So be aware of the guys that are kind of saying moonlighting, but they're just on their own with a bunch of friends saying, we have a patch on our arm. The patch on your arm doesn't matter. It's about who's assigning it and what umbrella you're under.
So as you get closer to your district schedules and to your playoffs, if you struggle with officials, please reach out to our office. It's easier at info@taps.biz, but you can always give us a call here as well, 254-947-9268. We're going to jump to TAPS passes. One of the things that comes when you pay your dues and your event fees is you get 10 TAPS passes per school. Those are not individual to each person. They're to be handed out or distributed. They do get the pass holder and their family with minor children in. So a lot of times it's a coach's wife or a coach's husband. If you give them all out to your school board members, then you're not going to have any left to give out to your coaches that are coming or to scouting. So one thing that's very important, and make a note of this if you would, if someone presents a TAPS pass at an event you're hosting, whether it's a non-district, a district, a playoff, or a scrimmage, or whatever it is, and you're hosting a tournament, that pass gets the pass holder and their minor children in free. So remember, you're going to expect everybody to honor that pass when you show up. You need to do it when they show up. So if you've got questions, TAPS passes will be going out early next week. The ones that you had from last year are good through September 1, and away we'll go. But just help us to honor the TAPS pass and honor those other folks. You get to play in TAPS because other people are playing and vice versa. We are one big family here. Sometimes we don't all eat at the same table, but we all have the same expectations.
Also at the state, we will be scanning those passes. So when you present the pass, it'll be scanned, and each pass has a different scan code. So it can't be scanned more than once. So understand that, because sometimes folks take pictures and things, but it's 10 scans that you get. So the technology is pretty good, and it's really helpful.
So again, we're going to take a quick break for questions. If you've got questions, please drop them in the chat. John can read them. I know one question that came up was rank one schedules and scores in TMS. And unfortunately at this point, no, they don't talk to one another. So you need to have your schedule. If you're going to use rank one, that's great. Make sure you got your schedule and scores there. But TMS is the required place. So make sure you go back in and double duty it there. It may change as we get farther down the road, but for right now, you've got to put them into both places. John, you got any other questions, or do we have questions from the field?
I got one real quick. Can parents be game administrators?
If it's somebody you trust, remember you're saying if they're the game administrator, it's just like a staff at the school. So if you put them in charge, they're in charge. So whatever they say on behalf of your school, they're doing for that. So it'd be somebody you'd really have to train up in this process. Remember, it doesn't have to be a coach. It doesn't have to be a principal. It's a long time ago since I was in high school, and she's since passed. But I'm going to tell you, Miss Ruth Amon, Fort Worth Western Hills High School, would have been the best game administrator you ever met. She was mean, 5'2", my biology teacher, but she was there at all the sub-varsity games on campus. So it can be a teacher, it could be a parent. Just make sure it's somebody that you trust with being in charge and they understand the boundaries.
And they've been certified, right?
Yes. Well, I would recommend that they do watch that course. One other thing is don't have your game administrator a coach who is actively coaching a game. They're there. Your game administrator is there to help those issues and the kind of issues that might come up where the coach might not notice or the coach is involved in coaching the game. So it could be a coach that is not in season, but don't have a coach who's actively coaching.
It's hard to take the freshman volleyball coach and tell her she's going to be the game admin for varsity if you're expecting that coach to do something. The other side of that, it used to come up in basketball all the time, was the boys coach will be the game admin for the girls and the girls for the boys. They got a little something else on their mind while they're going on. So a third party definitely helps as we go through. What else you have, John?
All right. Where do we go to sign up for our athletic fees for the new school year?
That's going to be part of your participation form. So if you have not seen that participation form, it was emailed to each school last week. Drop us an email, info at taps.biz. Put participation form, and Miss Kelly will get back to you send you a new link, and you can jump on it and get it done right there.
I've got one more question. One more specific to volleyball. For varsity volleyball games, is it required to have paid line judges, or can you use parents?
Typically, that's something that your district meets on. I know the districts I was in, what you don't want to do is have a really tense varsity game and you've got some junior high volleyball player who's calling lines there, or maybe a parent that doesn't handle pressure as well. But typically that's something that your district comes to an agreement on. The districts I was in did say, yes, you had to have them paid, but there's no TAPS rule on that.
So Steve, take that one step farther. We're talking about parents on the lines and calling. What about the table crew for anything? Can they be high school kids, junior high kids? What is our expectation at the table?
Our expectation of the table crew, once again, is also have adults. And obviously you want to make sure you pick somebody that's not going to get so much into the game that they're cheering. If you are at the table, you shouldn't be cheering. You should be doing your job. But they do need to be adults. You don't want some critical last second issue come up and you've got some junior high kid who's been keeping the clock and now you've got an opposing coach that's real upset because somehow or other there was a clock malfunction.
So volleyball playoffs are different. That's tournaments, non-district and district. When you get to the playoffs, TAPS rules basically say you got to have the up, the down, the R1, the R2, and the lines should be a paid crew. However, the UIL has made a split. They're going to have two sets of playoffs, which almost doubles the volleyball playoffs and the basketball playoffs. So if you run into a problem getting the four-person crew, obviously you and your opponent go through that situation and you can understand and drop the lines if the need be. Just highly encourage you. Going up to it, it's a district decision in district. Non-district, do what you like. You get to the playoffs and you get to the state tournament, we're going to require all four.
All right, I've got three more questions so far. Are any other high school passes accepted?
Yes, Texas high school coaches, Texas high school athletic directors, Texas interscholastic swim coaches, Texas soccer coaches, Texas Association of Basketball Coaches would all be part of that as well. And then Texas Girls Coaches Association. The difference is a TAPS pass is the card holder and their family. If it's somebody else's pass, it's only for that person. Now, your district can set up their own passes. I know our district used to distribute passes as well, but that needed to be made at the district preseason meeting. And those are only good for your district contests. They're not good in postseason or in the non-district era.
I've got a question asking, what are the two basketball official groups?
TASO is all sports, TASO.org, and THSBOA, Texas High School Basketball Officials Association is the other. Okay, those are the two. Now, if somebody else has been an approved chapter, as you'll see when you pull up that table, they'll tell you what sports they're approved for. So some of these chapters are approved for all the sports, some are approved for just one. So you've got the approved one, check the tables, THSBOA, just basketball, and TASO, all the team sports.
www.taps.biz, click on athletics, click on officials, and then it'll show you where to rock and roll from there.
All right, last question. What is the process for submitting information on concussions and the process for return to play?
At the present time, TAPS is not going to collect that data. It goes back into the medical data. We're working with the folks that are writing our program to make sure that we're compliant. Right now, you need to record that at the school level, and then we'll have return to play forms available on the website. You don't send them to us, but I would highly recommend you keep them on file, your school nurse and the athletic staff in the appropriate places as your school has determined that to be kept. We will not be recording that data this year.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to the TAPS website. Will, if you can pull that up. The website's a good place to go and check. I would say every single day to go up there and just look at whatever's new, remind yourself of different things. If you look at the website though, it's been changed a little bit. We have the standings, brackets, and tickets right there on the front page. You also have the newest post there on the right. If you wish to go to athletics, why don't you go ahead and click athletics. It's a little bit different. I think we've put the most important things right up there in the red boxes. And if you'll scroll down, all of a sudden you see all the different sports that we have, and each one of these have a page. And you go to that page for information. Well, you can pick any page you want to. Pick a good one. Okay. And when you go to those pages, you'll see that there's very specific information. You'll also see at the top there's rules and things in districts that you can look at as well. The countdown clock tells us how fast time is moving, as Brian said earlier. But again, go onto the website every day, but also explore the website. Go all over the place. Look at what each button means. We have the contact us button. You have the bylaws button on the bottom left there. If you see a little bitty, it says bylaws. You click that. That's just something that you should be looking at all the time and rereading and checking. If there's anything that you have a question about, it's good to go to the bylaws and look those over, review them, and then call the office or email us. Let us know if you need some clarity. Also, you'll see a lot of times when you email us, you'll ask us something about the bylaws. We'll literally cut and paste or link right back to where you'll find the rules, so you'll be able to use it even better. The alignment button up there, and Will, you can hit that on the very top. Again, that tells you what the alignments are. Since this is a new AD webinar, some of you might not know all this information. Go through the alignment page, look at all the information, find your school. Also, if you were expected to play a sport this year, like volleyball or football, and you're not going to be able to field a team, don't put volleyball or football in your contract, but let us know that you're not going to field a team or a softball team or whatever, so we can make the different arrangements. We can talk about that. So if you see that there was an expectation that you were having a team and you're not going to have that, make sure you shoot us a line or drop us a line or give us a call and let us know that you're not going to have that. Just had a call earlier today, the same thing. So individual sports, not so much. We'll see what you're doing on your contracts, but if there's a change that just happened, let us know. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to the office, ask questions. But again, I go to this every single day and spend some time exploring the website. I mean, it just goes on the resources and all the stuff that you have. So don't just look at it every once in a while, every single day.
Well, do me a favor real quick before we hit media. Go to athletics here on the website. And then on these tabs, you're going to see athletic emails and posts. Right now, it's on the right-hand side. Click on that real quick. Basically, every time Kelly sends an email and it is pertaining to one of the sports or whatever, it's going to be showing up here. So as an athletic director, coaches too, but as athletic directors, as you scroll down, all of the activities are there. It gives you just a chance to see everything in one place. So highly encourage www.taps.biz, click on athletics, and then click on those athletic emails and posts.
And if you see something posted and you didn't see an email, you might check your spam, but also check here and make sure that we have the right email address, because we want those emails coming to you. So sometimes you might catch a post when you didn't catch an email. We'll get that fixed for you.
Excellent, excellent. John, tell us a little bit about what media we have and what you're looking at.
All right. So, folks, if you weren't here at the very beginning of the meeting when I introduced myself, my name is John Skees, and I am the Director of Media for TAPS. Director of just myself and a couple of freelancers. I'm going to walk through real briefly some of the things that we provide to our member schools. First off, we are on social media. We've got Twitter accounts for every championship event. So there's one for swimming, one for cross country, one for baseball, softball, etc. We post individual event information there, so we're not flooding our main channels. So those are good things to spread to your parents and to your school communities. We'll put game matchups there. We'll put links to live broadcasts and to radio broadcasts. We'll put links to photos after the fact. If there are schedule changes because of severe weather, we had severe weather during regional track last year, and we were putting updates by the hour and more frequently than that on our Twitter pages, and that's how we were getting that information out to our parents and our community. We are also on Facebook and Instagram. We put more general stuff up there. One of the bigger things that we do is photograph all of our championships, or at least all the ones that we can. So we have between 1 and 3 photographers. Sometimes it's just me, sometimes it's me and 2 freelancers that we bring on. And we document as many of our TAPS hosted championships games as possible. There's some stuff that we can't get to. I can't get to every single golf team, but if it's baseball, softball, basketball, volleyball, swimming, all that stuff, our photographers are there. We are documenting as many of the student athletes and coaches and fans as we can, and we make those photographs available to you digitally for free once the events are over. They're free for your schools to use for publication. There's free for your yearbooks to use. I've seen plenty of our pictures in yearbooks if schools can't afford to send student photographers, or if they don't have the equipment, or if there's multiple things happening at once, we are there to cover that. You can find those on our SmugMug page. There are links on every single athletic activity page. You'll see a button that says photos. We put these links all over social media once the events are coming and while they're happening and when they're over. But that link is taps.smugmug.com. All digital downloads are free. They are free for the students to use, free for the parents to use, free for the schools to use. You can order prints if you want, and plenty of people do, but all those digital downloads are free. This is especially advantageous for some of our events where we cannot, for safety reasons or for rules, have school photographers on site. Some things like basketball or football, there's enough space for us to allow media from the schools there. There's a limited number. We can't have everybody there. But we allow things. But for events, for instance, like swimming, we cannot have anybody on deck except TAPS personnel. So you can have people up in the stands, but you can't have people poolside. We have that covered for you. You don't have to pay for it. All that stuff is there. It's not like a cheer camp where they're charging $20 per download. We're giving that stuff to you. Our other media properties, we do video broadcasts and radio broadcasts from most of our championships where that's possible. We also have 2 podcasts. We have a weekly that we may or may not be continuing this year, depending on engagement, but we have more in-depth episodes on our championships. So, for instance, if there's somebody at your school interested in esports or interested in one-act play or interested in match play golf, we've got in-depth episodes with interviews from TAPS coaches and players on all of those. And you can find those by searching for TAPS Talk on any podcast app. We've also got links on the website. There's under the TAPS resources page, you can see a drop down. You'll see where our podcasts are. We also run a YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/TAPSBiz. That's where the recording of this meeting is going to be, and that's where some of our other broadcasts will be backed up. Some other videos from other activities throughout the year, all that stuff we put out there, video messages to you, that's all going to be hosted on our YouTube page. Again, that's youtube.com/TAPSBiz. One thing that you can do for us, if you guys update your logos or marketing during the school year, we won't necessarily know unless you tell us, and the easiest way to do that is to take your new media asset, whatever that is, and send an email to info@taps.biz. Every once in a while, we'll be at a football championship game, and we'll have art up on the video school scoreboards that have logos on it, but they're the logos from last year, and we didn't know. And coaches are upset, parents are upset, administrators get very upset. So if you, and we'll fix it as soon as we know about it, but if you don't tell us, we don't know. So if your school changes their logos, their athletic logos, please send us an email, info@taps.biz, and send us that art. My direct email address is john@taps.biz if you have any media related questions. If you've got media programs on your campuses that have questions about access during championship events, send me an email and we'll work out how they can get people courtside. We do passes and stuff through Steve, but if you've got student media, I was a high school photography teacher for years. I was a high school broadcast teacher for years in journalism and yearbook. If you've got people who need help with that, put them in touch with me. That's john@taps.biz. And I think that's it. Is there anything else you need me to cover for media there, Steve or Brian?
John, you mentioned logos, and if you change your logo in TMS, you can also upload your specific logo. So make sure you do that. And then obviously, if you do change that logo, make sure you correct that in TMS. You can actually also upload your specific, what is that called? The color,
yes,
the hex code, so you can have the exact color of your school. But make sure you do that in TMS as well.
It's important to have that in TMS, but if you change it, I don't check TMS when there's a game. If I've got 36 graphics to make, I don't check TMS or the database every single time. So if there's a change in the middle of the year, at the beginning of the year, you have to let us know, or we won't know.
Right. So as we go forward, Will, I'm going to ask you to jump back to the website real quick. Again, it's www.taps.biz. I've said it too many times. Will, down on the left-hand side, down at the bottom, click on the word about. And then go scroll down. That's our mission and vision, important. But right there in that black box says TAP staff. Click on that for me, Will. So again, I'm the executive director. Steve Perdome, our associate director. If you've got questions or concerned about officials, out-of-state opponents, international opponents, those kind of things, direct it there. Robert Huckabee is our Associate Director of Compliance, but he's also event specific as well as Steve. So if you've got a transfer question, eligibility question, any of that, reach out to us. Rhonda Smith is our Director of Fine Arts, and she's also the lady that takes care of the money. So if you've got a cash question or a fine art question, Rhonda's your lady. Steve O'Hulan's our Athletic Director, and right now he's leading up our charge on the TAPS management system. So questions on either one, you can email info or Steve. John Skis, again, Director of Media. Kelly Bay is our events assistant. She's heading up the TMS opportunity right along with Steve, so questions will go there. But Kelly is there to help in any way possible with the events. Delaney, if you're doing transfer students, you've seen the email from her. So Delaney is going to be events assistant on site handling the transfers. Will Dixon, he is the power behind TAPS TV and TAPS Radio, and we couldn't do events without him. So a good soccer guy coming back to our rescue. He knows what an assist and how to score a goal. So having Will there when we go to the deal. So if you're looking for a way to broadcast and you don't want to use YouTube Live anymore, the others we do have Huddle TV, and Will can walk you through some of that. Vicki Morgan, she's the lady behind everything. She gets us ready to go and whatever. And we have our newest addition in Mandy. She's here to help as well. Liz is our corporate sponsorship. So we're not a huge staff. We work hard. I just wanted you to see the names. And if you need us, that's how you get in touch with us directly. So I'm going to close it out here on my thought. We're looking forward to a great year. You're part of it. We're all one big family trying to make the best of it. There's a great poem, Everything I Learned, I Needed to Know, I Learned in Kindergarten. And one of the most famous lines is, we all need to hold somebody's hand when we cross the street. So we are in this together. My closing thought, we're looking forward to a great year. You're part of that great year. We need you. We look forward to visiting with you. Anything we can do to help. If it sounds good and you want to reach out, let us know. If it sounds a little weird, reach out and let us know. Robert, your thoughts?
I think we're good. If you have questions, reach out. We're here to help. We've been where you are. We know it's a crazy busy time. So we wish everyone the best and stay safe throughout the year.
It's time to get going. Let's rock and roll.
I guess somebody who spent 40 years in you guys' shoes, I just encourage you guys, and don't ever forget how important your job is and what kind of impact you can have. And we are here to come alongside you guys and help you in your programs.
So www.taps.biz, 254-947-9268, info, info@taps.biz. This seminar will be, John's going to cull it out. We'll have it posted on YouTube. We'll also have the slides available in a PDF format. And anything else that you need, please reach out to us. So you'll probably see an email with that content. It'll also be located on the TAPS website. Thank you all for making this time today. Couldn't do it without you. We're here to help. Thank you.